Good evening and welcome back. Hope everybody's having a great vacation away from school a little bit, enjoying time with family and friends. But as promised in our first entry of the year, the wrap up of 2018 and welcome to 2019. We're switching our focus a little bit from the financials of the district. We'll get back to that later, to the actual performance of the district. So if you remember, we've been following along. A while back, we did a entry called $4 million in 4 years. And we went through the complete failure of our district under our superintendent and leadership team to accomplish any of what was put on that plan, the strategic plan that was so important and we spent so much time and so much money on. And it really coincided with a couple of different things when you think about proficiency-based education, but also the brand new high school, the $40 million over 10 years. We pay about $4 million a year towards this high school that was supposed to be the next greatest thing. It's a nice building, but as we're going to see, buildings don't teach kids. Teachers teach kids. Educators teach kids. Guidance counselors guide our children. Our principals run the schools hopefully in a manner in which our children can be successful. So we're going to kind of show you a little bit about what's happened over the past couple of years when it comes to the performance of our district and why I consider our administration such a, well, let's just say the results from the strategic plan are going to be backed up with what I'm going to show you here. So without further ado, let's take a quick look at some of the performance that we've seen in our district over the past few years. So when we think about Hamden Academy, okay, so proud graduate, class of 1991. I'm pretty darn sure that no matter what proficiency test you put in front of me as I was going through school, I would have passed it. Here we consider ourselves against state average. And when you think about our board oftentimes comes out with the encouragement of our superintendent, or they encourage our superintendent to talk about how we spend less than the state average on our pupils. Well, that's to be seen when we dig deeper into the financials here, but let's look at what the results of that are. So some results to look at. First, we're going to start with how we're doing. This is the one category in which we have not really gone down too much, except for the 38% part, but this is how we did on the MEA math results at Hamden Academy. So if you look at 2016 over to the left, a little bit over 50%. So 1 out of 2 of our high school students were proficient, which is defined as at or above state expectations. Now, I don't know about you, but as a parent that lives here in the great town of Hamden, the great neighborhood I live in, and the taxes that I pay, I don't really look for state expectations. I look for my expectations, which are apparently a little bit higher. See a little dip to 38.10, and you see that we're at 50% as of full year 2018. Now, remember, don't blame your teachers, because many of the teachers in our high school today weren't here back a couple of years ago. You remember we've had quite a bit of attrition. The environment seems to drive some folks out. We're lucky that many of our really good teachers are still with us, but we have had some shakeup in the teacher ranks. So don't blame the teachers, but remember that strategic plan of which we accomplished a 0 on. So this is the best looking graph for Hamden Academy. So 1 out of 2. So we'll go down here and let's look at how we're doing in science. So science has been a strong point for our district and for our high school for quite a long time. When you think with the new building that was built, that with the labs and what have you, this would encourage more learning. Maybe we didn't quite build the state-of-the-art building. Maybe we built one that was state-of-the-art back when our superintendent was in school. But if you look at it, so you see a little bit of an uptick to full year 16. This goes back to full year 15 because science wasn't part of the Smarter Balance. I don't include that in math and ELA because it was a very different test. So you look at 16 went up just a little bit, but boom, now we go down to 61.05, 61.76. So you look at the dotted line, that's called the trend line. Once again, we are trending down, right? Our district academy is going the wrong way. $40 million for the building. And then another $4 million in 4 years on the strategic plan, and our performance is going down. Okay, so not what you'd really be looking at from a performance management perspective, of which I tend to have quite a bit of experience in. But now look at this one. Look at the drop in ELA. ELA, the basic foundation of learning, I think we'd all agree, gone from over 74% over just a couple of years down to 63. And look at this trend line going from left to right. Just the opposite of system administration that continues to get more and more expensive. We spend more and more on curriculum development. We spend more and more on curriculums. And one of the interesting things when you look at the changes in our district, when you used to look at curriculums, like when I first joined the board, there were teacher names on it. The principal and the teachers, they developed their curriculum, very, very successful. When you look at now, we seem to buy curriculums, implement curriculums, make it much harder for our teachers because when you think about it, introducing a new curriculum, you're more tenured and teachers that have that experience. What kind of experience are they going to share with the newer teachers when it's a brand new curriculum? Now, a curriculum coordinator, yes. Are they worth $250,000 a year for that department? Looking at these graphs, I'm thinking maybe no. Well, is this an anomaly? Well, let's take a look really quick. If you look at our district over the past couple of years, you'll see that in math, we've actually had a slight increase. We've gone from 45% or so of our students being at the state average or better, or state expectation, to 46. So we do see a little bit of an increase, right? But we're still less than 1 out of 2 of our students are at or above the state expectation for math. 4 million, 4 years. 40 million for a building. And we even named the road coming in after one of our former administrators. The legacy of our superintendent is what I was told is this new high school. Boy, it's doing some wonders. Now let's look at the science results, okay? So this is the exact opposite of what you'd look to see happening. But we had to have some shake-up with our teachers. We moved some folks around, and we do mess with our curriculum a bit. And once again, don't blame the teachers. Some of them weren't here, and the ones that are here, thank you for staying. Hopefully it gets better soon. But when you look at our science results here at a district, boom, almost 600 basis point drop over the years. And once again, look at that dotted line from left to right. Exactly the opposite of what you'd want to see. And in a later entry, we'll show you some schools that are going the exact opposite way that don't have a brand new high school. Isn't that amazing? And then now let's look at our basic ELA. And we've dropped below the 60% mark down to 59.24. Once again, down. We're going in the wrong direction. Now, I've often been told the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing and expecting different results. How long are we, as a community, can continue to put up with these results? We spend the money, we authorize the money. Now, here's a little story for you when you think about it. And we'll go back to, we'll stop sharing that just for a second here. And so let's think about this for a second. Here's a little story for you to put this kind of in perspective. Our students obviously aren't getting what they need, right? Some of them are. I'm very proud to say that my 2 daughters, even though they've run into some issues this year that I wasn't really expecting, but when you think about performance above the state average, right? That's the expectation. If they weren't, we would work with them, right? That's what we do with many of us in our community. But not all students are, we're very fortunate. I've often said I'm the most fortunate person I know. And we have the time, the talents, and skill set to be able to do that for our children, right? We live in Hamden because you choose them, because that's where I went to school, and I would not choose any other pattern. Plus, there are some other teachers out here that I really, really want my children to have as teachers, so we're going to continue to live here. But think about this example, this story. And this will pretty much put in perspective what we're going to talk about over the next few months. Every single year, the school district comes out with a budget. The amount of factual data that's used for this budget is within question. But they come out with it, and they tell us they need it. And they tell us they can't give back any of the unassigned fund balance. They tell us that they can't afford teachers. We actually have less teachers than the essential programs and services formula that tell us that we need it. Essential, we're less, right? Okay, so think about it. If your children need 3 meals a day, let's feed them less. Now that goes into my story. So I'm not sure about the rest of you, but when it comes time for lunch and my daughters end below or get low on their count, well, in order to get more food the next day when they go to lunch, we have to add some money to it. Say that you go in, you put $50 into that lunch account, and you've authorized your son or daughter, whomever you may be taking care of, the student, to spend $50 at the lunchroom. You have authorized that for them to do it because you know it's important for them to eat. Imagine when they come home one day and they say, I went to get lunch today, but I was told I can't. And I said, I should be able to. I know I have money. And then they said, well, we've decided you didn't need that much. And you go and you log on, you look at it, and you see, wow, out of the $50, there's still $17. So you call up and say, yes, I'd like you to use that money for my child to eat as I have authorized? And you get the answer of no. So then you ask for your money back. Can I have the $17? No, you gave it to us. It's in our system. It's within our district finance system. You're not getting it back. If you'd like your child to continue to eat, pay more. What happens at $17? Well, it goes into an unassigned account that maybe we can use for whatever, or who knows. Can you imagine? Well, if you think back over the last, well, as long as I can remember, and since I've been involved back in 2014, that's exactly what's happening to our community. Remember a couple years ago when we underspent by over $500,000 on special education? Can you imagine going up to somebody that needs us the most and letting them know you don't need that? Can you imagine going up to a child as an adult and saying, I know that you were supposed to have this, but you can't have it? Taking money from children. Can you imagine? Wow, what would happen if your son or daughter or whomever you may be taking care of wasn't able to use their full allotment of food? They'd probably lose some weight, right? Maybe they'd fall behind. Maybe they'd be hungry in class. We're starving our children educationally. Each and every year, money is approved to be used to educate our children. It is being withheld from them. No reason, no explanation necessary. Ask about it, you're going to get some very angry people. But just think about it. What would you do if your student came home and told you they were not able to eat lunch because someone told them they didn't eat that much? And when you asked for the money back, you couldn't get it. $40 million high school? You've seen the results. You don't need a new high school. Teachers teach children. Buildings don't. Thank you for joining, and we'll be back with a look at one of our other schools in our next session. Until next time.